Everybody had their booths with the setups and the big signs and everything. And we had printed these signs that were roll up that we'd brought. And then we would arrive at a city, drive to Walmart, buy a table and 2 chairs and a rug, leave it there, and then just everyone took 2 days to break down their booth, and we just went with our signs. We packed everything up in our suitcases, and we were out of there on the same day flight. We were pretty scrappy in the beginning. We were really on a budget that we would stay in some super awful hotel in Las Vegas for $40 a night. We stood there like, hi, have you heard of this nutsucker? And people would be like, ugh, that's disgusting. Nobody's ever going to use it.
All right, you're listening to Hawk Talk. I'm here today with Kaisa Levine. How are you?
I'm good, Eric. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming. So, gotta imagine you're in the delivery room. I don't know, maybe you caught a cold right away and had just way too much snot, and we're like, no baby should ever have to deal with this again. And from then on out, you went to solve that problem, right?
Oh, yeah, exactly. I was like, nope, Nadia, I'm going to prevent it. It's going to be like my life's mission. No, actually, I never really saw myself as a business owner, but life is funny that way. It just takes you to, unexpected places, right?
100%. So, tell me more about like where are you from originally?
I'm from Sweden. I was born in Stockholm, Sweden. And when I was 10, my parents moved us down to a small town called Falkenberg on the southwest. Cute beach town in the summer, horrible small town in the winter. And I started 4th grade there and didn't really like being in a small town and not knowing anyone. I'm a big city girl. I like the hustle and bustle of big cities. So it worked out okay, but I left when I was 18. I was pretty much out of there as soon as I finished school.
And where did when you were a kid, were you gravitating towards that hustle and bustle, or was it something you realized more when you got the chance to go?
I think that's something I realized when I didn't have it anymore. And I was a pretty quiet and kid. So I think that kind of came later when I got to, we traveled a lot. My mom would take me to Spain and other places, and my dad would take me skiing in Europe. And I like just going to bigger places where things are happening. I like to be where it's happening.
Yeah,
So, and then ultimately going to New York, and I was like, okay, hey, this
down
is where I'm.
home. Yeah. So, what did your parents do growing up? What were they into?
My dad was he was a suit and tie guy. He was a big union boss. He worked for the building department.
Mhm.
Felt he was overworked and wanted to quiet down a little bit. And my mom's father wanted to retire from his fine carpentry business. So my mom was an administrator and an accountant. So they picked up and left Stockholm and moved to Falkenberg with my sister and I. My sister's a bit older and settled us down there for a little bit more quiet. And my dad really always wanted to work with his hands, be creative.
Yeah.
So he ended up building our furniture in our house. And yeah, it was a different life.
Yeah. And I guess how did that impact you? Like knowing that like he was there like he felt overworked, he felt like he was working too hard. Did you have a certain view of that, or did you not, how did that resonate?
Yeah, he had a father that was never home because of work. He grew up poor and his father was never home. And he started to feel that way. And he's like, I have these 2 young girls here and, I'm home Saturday and Sunday and that's it. He wanted to have a little bit of a better quality with his family. So, and that's
Mhm.
something I could do later on as my business started to grow.
Yeah, I totally understand that. And so as a kid, what did you think you wanted to be when you grew up? Every kid has these dreams,
Oh, yeah. I That's an easy answer. I wanted to be a veterinarian. I really I have always been obsessed with animals ever since I was little. I used to collect frogs and have buckets everywhere and uh, you name it, ladybugs and snails, and of course, obsessed with dogs and cats.
Yeah.
And father was a dog trainer in the military for a while, and we always had some type of service dog in our house, big German shepherds. And I would always try to get them to sleep in my bed. Of course, they were so well trained that they wouldn't leave their spot. So I was very into animals. Wasn't a great student. Terrible at math, I have to say. But the veterinarian dreams, quickly became sort of a just a dream. It's something that I really wanted to do, but studying is, I really wasn't a great student. It was math and science is not my strength.
So funny enough, I had the last interview I had on this podcast is a Nobel Prize winning veterinarian.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
I have,
So,
yeah,
uh,
envious.
love that. Yeah, yeah. I mean, and it's funny. He got into it not because of his love of animals, but because of the food dynamic of it. He's an older gentleman that like he was looking at it as like, how do we save, livestock and cattle and make sure they don't die of diseases? And so the immunology of, uh,
Yeah.
yeah, animals. Um, and so at what point did you kind of go, maybe like, was this something that you were like, I'm going to be a veterinarian and that went for a while? Or were you just kind of like, I like this stuff. And then, maybe not.
No, I was pretty passionate about it. I really on the flip side, I also wanted to be an actress because, that seemed really fabulous, and I loved acting out kids and stuff at home. So, um, you know, all these unattainable dreams that sometimes you have to change course and not give up, but do something else instead.
And when did you start to like, at what point were you like, maybe veterinary, like each one isn't going to be the thing I do?
Yeah, that was pretty. As in like third, fourth grade, and struggling with math, and that was pretty
Okay.
clear.
Yeah.
I not going to be for me. I'm
What
going to
about
have
the
to do.
acting side? No, what about the acting side? Was that,
Oh,
how long did that last?
yeah. Oh, I mean, to make a long story short, I left when I was 18.
Okay.
In Sweden, finished high school, and you have the option of taking some time off. And I came to the States as an au pair,
Okay.
and then eventually ended up in New York City, and started just doing odd jobs, and of course some acting gigs, some modeling stuff, and nothing super glamorous like copy machines, toothpaste. Plastic gloves, shower caps, that kind of stuff. Somebody's got to do it, right? And but eventually, I came to my senses and realized I had to do like a real job. And so I was always into taking care of people. One of the things that I wanted to do was become a nurse or a social worker. Um, I like taking care of animals and people, and so I became an EMT, and I worked on an ambulance for many, many years in New York City, and um, that was my calling. I really felt at home in that, and it was a great job because you were in different place every day. You were not stuck in an office. It was incredibly creative,
Yeah.
and you had to really think quick on your feet. It's just you and your partner on the ambulance, and you really have to think very quickly, and you can't be scared.
Yeah.
You become scared after the fact, and you go, "Oh, whoa, that was crazy. What actually happened?" And so I did that, and
But talk
that was.
more to that. That's honestly super interesting. Is so you had to learn how to like in the moment just act and think quickly, not let the emotions flood in, but you did feel it after the fact. Is what you're saying? Is like once you look back, you're like, that was yeah.
I've seen some really very emotional situations and some very dangerous situations and crazy stuff. But you follow your protocol,
Mhm.
you do what you have to do, and then afterwards you're like, whoa, that wasn't smart. That we were in that neighborhood, or
Yeah.
like a young girl, 27 years old, at hospice for cancer. So, what taught me was that you really need to be happy for every single day that you're healthy. And I got a reminder every day when I worked. And it made me kind of happy every day. As time goes by, you're like, oh, you get mired in your old problems. But that every day set me back and go, oh, don't complain. Don't complain about anything. You're alive and you're well.
Yeah.
Things are going to.
Yep. I think that's a good perspective. And so how old were you? Like, how long did you do that for? You said many years, but how long specifically?
Yeah. About 7 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah,
during that
until
period, were you like, did you think you were going to do it the rest of your life, or was it a stepping stone, or was it just like, how were you thinking about it?
it's a very heavy job, physically very heavy. It's taxing on your body. I'm still recovering from injuries from lifting 300-pound people at 3 o'clock in the morning in the Bronx. So,
Yeah.
that it wasn't feasible to continue for too long. I always had a lot of jobs. I drove a limo and I did all kinds of job. But then I met my husband, and right before 9/11, I had found out that we were expecting our first child. And so that kind of naturally ended that. And we ended up moving to Miami shortly after, just kind of on a whim. Uh, we drove down with our old dog and rented an apartment and kind of fell in love with Miami Beach. And we rented
Did either
bikes.
of you have work there? Was there anything else other than just, "It's a beautiful place, we're going"?
We were only going there for a month. And
Okay.
then my husband had just sold his business. He started Crunch Fitness.
Oh,
And
cool.
so he just sold that and was kind of a free agent and semi-retired. And we said, let's go spend the month of March. Of course, we fell in love with it and ended up buying a house and staying. And that's pretty much what happened. And I had our first son
Yep.
in May 21.
Okay. And what did, and did you
202.
start
2002.
May of 20
2002. Yeah, yeah,
got it.
yeah.
So you went down there in 2020, you said?
No, 2020. No, 2002. Yes.
2002, and you had him in
Yeah.
2002.
I told you I wasn't very good at math.
Oh, no, yeah, trust me, I got thrown off for a second too. So you end up down in Miami, and how was that going from, like, the craziness of being an AMT to, like, I guess having a son also is a lot of tumult, but how was that transition?
That was a big transition, but we loved Miami so much, and we were new parents, which is always something new, as you know. And
Yep.
we kind of got through that role, and we went to Sweden when Alex was just 6 weeks old, and this is what led me to starting my business. I He was having a horrible cold the first week we arrived in Sweden, and I tried everything. Of course, in the hospital, they gave me that blue syringe bulb,
Yeah,
and
that they
and
hate.
which is which doesn't really work at all. And when I started to talk to my friends in my hometown, they're like, "Why don't you get a NoseFrida? Everybody has one." I said, "What is that?" And so my husband ran out to the pharmacy and got one, and I was like, "Aha! This is amazing." So I brought a few of them in my suitcase home to my friends and to my pediatrician, who also had her own baby at the time. And she was like, "Wow, these are amazing. You should start business selling these." And I was like, "Oh, just had a baby. I worked my whole life." And but the more people started asking for them, I started to think about actually, starting a business importing them. And
Yep.
so fast forward, I contacted the Swedish manufacturer. I got the exclusive rights to United States and Canada and South America,
Uh-huh.
and he trusted us to just go and run with it. And it wasn't so easy.
How do you convince them to do that, to give you those exclusive rights? Because that's a risk on their part too.
Yes. I was very confident that this was a product that would absolutely work. It would take some convincing of the, American crowd, because
Mhm.
Americans are typically more grossed out than the other people. Like sucking snot, I'm never going to do that. And I'm like, yeah, you will. You're going to call me at 3 o'clock in the morning when your baby's sleeping, and you're going to ask me to overnight it via FedEx for $100. So yeah. So I was very confident. He trusted me and said, "Okay, let's go with it." And I started very small. I just spent about $5,000. We bought a big shipment. I think it was 200 aspirators to start with. I opened a Yahoo web store and started to basically build a little website. I had a college student build me a pretty awful website. It was blue and yellow with Swedish colors and some flags and some baby. And but it's pretty funny to look back at how awful it was. And I started making the rounds to all the pediatricians in Miami. And so I would take a bunch of nose Fridas with me and kind of charm them and say, "Hey, why don't you try this on tell your parents to try it out and see, get the feedback. I'm telling you it works." And then, call me and we can talk about it. And then I would go to a local pharmacy nearby and I would say, "Hey, Dr. So and so is selling these, is recommending these. And so you should sell them in your pharmacy." And they're, "Wow, we've never seen this before. I don't know what it is." And I'm like, "Well, I'll give you a 6 month buyback guarantee. If you haven't sold them in 6 months, I'll come and buy them right back."
Mhm.
And the doctors were like, okay. And the pharmacy and doctors, back in the days, it was a little bit more mom and pop pharmacies around. Now, of course, big box stores. So that kind of got it started. And I went to New York. I did the same thing there. I went to small pharmacies, pediatricians. I went to LA and I kind of just elbowed my way into the pediatrician's office, pretending to have an appointment. I guess I even brought my toddler along one time, and I just like shoved a NoseFrida in the face of the doctor, like, here, try these.
Yeah.
You're gonna call me if you want more. And that kind of started the ball rolling. There was a Polish community in Chicago because um, NoseFrida was very big in Poland,
Huh.
and somebody had found out that I was selling them in the States and ordered one from me. And uh, that's kind of started, word of mom. It just started rolling when that whole Polish community started telling each other. And so I'm very grateful to them because they did a great job by getting some Chicago pharmacies and pediatricians aware of it as well. So that's kind of like how I got started.
That's amazing. And what was tell me more about kind of the 0 to 1. So you're getting this scrappy, you're the one flying around getting these. How was it to then like, at what point did you go, "I actually need to turn this into, like, a company and hire people and build a team and do all those things?" How was that point?
Yeah, it happened organically. I ran it myself from home for the first year.
Uh-huh.
Then I hired a young girl, Sarah Perilli, who became my greatest partner in crime. She and I she had some computer skills that I didn't have, being a lot younger, and she was very savvy. And together, we ran the business for several years. We went to every conference, every convention, um, every midwife conference. Las Vegas, we traveled all over the country. And basically, we were like, we had a little table. Everybody had their booths with the setups and the
Yep.
big signs and everything, and we had printed these, signs that were roll up that we brought, and then we would arrive at a city, drive to Walmart, buy a table and 2 chairs and a rug, leave it there, and then just everyone took 2 days to break down their booth, and we just went with our signs. We packed everything up in our suitcases, and we were out of there on the same day flight.
I
So
love that.
we were pretty scrappy in the beginning. We were really on a budget that we would stay in some super awful hotel in Las Vegas for $40 a night. So
Oh, yeah.
we were pretty savvy in the beginning, and we stood there and like, "Hi, have you heard of this nutsucker?" And people would be like, "Ugh, that's disgusting. Nobody's ever going to use."
I was gonna say because you mentioned, like, getting into these stores on consignment, basically. How did it sell early? Like, was it obviously, you had the Polish community and you had that built out, which is great, but what about the rest, where you're in New York and all these other places where did you did people pick this up and start like, did it sell itself?
It kind of did. Doctors' offices would sell them. A lot of doctors' offices would just buy them outright from me.
Okay.
And, then the pharmacies just started buying them out from me too. I would say, "You have, this guarantee if you don't sell them." And they would call me after just a few weeks and say, "You're right, they're selling," because the doctors were recommending them. So, like Zittermer and, like, Bigelow's Pharmacy in New York City, all these fancy pharmacies, uh,
Yeah.
all the moms would go in there and buy them. So it
Did you
just kind of started rolling.
did you ever come across Harvey Karp in LA?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
because he was my pediatrician, and then we launched this new we were the marketing team.
Yeah, 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 no, he was a big fan, and, most of the doctors in LA were fans, and we got into the pump station, which was a big deal for us. That's where all the cool moms go,
I'm
and
going to have
I
to
had
be there this weekend, I'm sure, to pick up stuff for our upcoming baby.
Yeah, exactly. And, I finally got the call that Pump Station wanted to carry them. And I was actually visiting in Sweden at the time, and we were low on inventory. So, Baptist Hospital here in Miami had, I think, 10 or 12 of them. So, my husband drove down there, bought them at retail, bought them outright so that we had enough to send to the pump station. And that's we're like, "Yeah, sure, we have inventory. Here you go. We'll send you 10 to start with."
Love it.
So,
That's awesome.
yeah, that became a great relationship with them. Really, really great.
And so again, you know, obviously you're not joking, but like there were obviously comments about and discussed, but people really did catch on to this pretty quick, it sounds like, and
You
go,
know, did and you know what helped us a lot was that blue rubber bulb. Somebody published a picture. They had cut it apart, and it was black and moldy
oh,
inside.
yeah,
I have been trying to tell people, "Don't use that. It's not good for the inside of the nose. Who knows what's inside it?" They still handed out girls. And that was a major thing for us, major thing. And other things happened. Victoria Beckham was on the cover of People magazine talking about the snot sucker with her new baby.
yeah,
And we kind of grew on organically. We didn't really have to advertise. We haven't really spent a penny on advertising. And back then, there wasn't social media like now. I couldn't post Instagram ads or even influencers or anything like that. We had chat rooms.
yeah,
So I would, we had urbanmom.com.
yep,
And I would say to my friends who loved it, I'm like, hey, if you're ever on these chat rooms, put a little comment in how much you like the snot sucker. And it just, it takes a village. I relied on my friends to spread the word. And when you have a product that really works, that people need, it's not so hard. Once you get over the growth factor,
yeah,
uh, like, damn, I need one of these. And it
yeah,
just kind of, now it's on every baby registry and list, and it's really good.
yeah, love it. And so, where at what point did you go? Like, it sounds like you were confident it would sell, and you knew that people would want it. But like, at what point did you go, "Oh my god, I've made a real company, and I'm starting like this is going in the right direction"?
Yes, well, we started getting into some really big stores. We got into Whole Foods. We were on for a long time. Of course, Amazon was huge for us because the ratings were so high. We had five-star ratings from the get-go. Amazon was really great for us. And we ended up just getting into Walmart and CVS and Target in the stores. We were on the end caps for a while. And Babies R Us, that was huge for us. We actually worked in my garage and home with 6 people employed, and the kids helping out after school to pack boxes before the UPS guy comes and picks them up until we got Babies R Us, and then it was completely out of control. They placed an order every Monday, and so we ended up buying a warehouse in Wynwood in Miami,
Yep.
and the business just exploded. And we had a whole shipping center, and we had probably had 7 or 8 employees right then. And, we even had a forklift, which is like the sign of true success.
I was gonna say, I was about to ask you, where was that inflection point that you're like, "Wow, we really have made a business."
Yes, and that's when I was like, "Ah, I really made it." And I knew there was a big thing, when I didn't have to convince people. People were, like, excited, like, "Oh, do you have one?" And we also had Windy, the little, gas fighter for colicky
Mhm.
babies.
Yeah.
Fantastic product, also Swedish. And we had the mom washer and several other products. So, and they were doing really well at the time as well. The Windy is a lifesaver if you have gassy babies.
Yep.
Like,
We've got one.
yes.
And so after so as this progressed, like, kinda talk to me about the next phases. Like, you built this out, you added products, you got a forklift. Um, when was the point that you were like, "Maybe it's time to sell this," or, like, what were you thinking as you kinda went along?
Well, to go back to how my dad felt when he was in the height of his career, at
Yep.
pretty much the same age as I was. I had kids early teens, and I always felt short, in either do I answer 40 emails in the afternoon or do I sit down and help them with homework? I knew that I had a small window with teenage kids to really be there. And so I wanted to take a step back myself. So I hired a person as my CEO in 2014. Her name is Chelsea Hirschhorn. And I gave her options for 20% of the company. I uh, kept a minority stake. We later sold the majority of the company to a private equity firm in New York. And I kept a minority stake. And then the company was later sold to SC Johnson and Wax, which is a huge
Okay.
company.
Yeah.
The block, uh, all kinds of things that everybody knows about
Yeah,
and
when
use.
you 'cause I'm always fascinated, when you brought on that CEO to Chelsea, was that her name?
Yes.
Uh, how was that transition? How was that experience?
It was pretty good, came and Sarah had been doing a great job up until then, and me, and she now works for SC Johnson and Wax and has done with her team a very good job of making the company even bigger. But I'm very proud of what I built, what I got. It's my baby. I still am very proud of all the products that we have today and all the work that we did and how hard we worked. It was, it's not an understatement when I say blood, sweat, and tears. It was
Yeah.
literally, we had some obstacles. For example, the Swedish manufacturer, who was a different manufacturer at the time, took it upon themselves to change the barcode on the products, and they had already shipped tens of thousands to us. So our stores would start calling us and say the barcode doesn't match, and we so we had to hire 5 people full time. We had to order stickers for
Yeah.
all the products sent to our stores that were already shipped out. And we had to hire people in our office to sit there and put new stickers with the new barcode on every single piece. That
Yeah.
was that was an obstacle. But, lots of those things. You get over it and you move on.
Oh, it's
It's just
business ownership. It's every week, every day, every month, you're gonna deal with something in different scales, obviously, but those are the things that you in the moment, you're freaking out and you're figuring out the strategy, and then you figure it out. It's good. And so got a couple more questions for you. Number 1, what's next for you?
Well, I am very passionate about animals, as I always was. I'm involved in lots of nonprofit organizations. I'm involved with wildlife sanctuary. I'm actually hands-on rescuing birds, hawks, squirrels,
Thank you for the
opossum.
hug.
Yeah, no, right? We have some beautiful Cooper's hawks down here
Yeah.
that I've had wrestle out of trees with my net and my goggles and my gloves into a box. It's quite a challenge. They have very, very sharp talons and a real mean beak that they want to peck your eyes out with when you're trying to help them. So I do that. And I also, since 2013, have been on the board of a foster care organization at the Children's Courthouse in Miami. And we basically act as oversight between the court system and the social workers. We interview or talk to the kids and their caregivers or whoever's involved in their life and make sure that things don't fall through the cracks. And so I'm the chair of this organization, and we have meetings every month. So yeah, so that's what I'm doing, and I'm also very involved in a fantastic youth organization called YMU. It's Young Musicians Unite. And,
Mhm.
a lot of these schools, these very underprivileged areas, they have no art and no music. So
Yeah.
we as an organization, we place free instruments and free music teachers and education into these really, really poor schools. And it has been a huge change in all these schools. If you speak to the principal, she or he has noticed a big difference in uh, attendance and behavior and social, pretty much everything, academics. It's really made a big difference. So I'm very passionate about that. And we have a big gala coming up now, and I'm chairing that. So, there's so many causes. There's so many causes, and I have the time, and I'm fortunate to not have to work as hard as I used to. So I'm happy to be able to give my time and money to some things that are important.
Love that. Funny enough, I have 2 guitars right there and 2 guitars and a ukulele right there. My childhood, what I wanted to be was a musician. So, very it resonates a lot with, like, the music and school thing because you don't know what that's gonna lead into, but it's such an important part of drawing kids in, and my first
Really,
online company was a music company. So, yeah,
yeah. I know. It's just such an, people don't think it's so important, but it really is. It just makes people happy. It brings people together. Music has already always been a big part of my life. I was making mixtapes and selling them on the streets of New York. I was, in my 20s, and always very passionate about music. So,
uh,
it's really
are you
important.
are you familiar with Notes for Notes? They're a similar organization.
It sounds familiar. It sounds like
They
something. So,
they donate instruments and equipment to mostly, I think it's boys and girls clubs, I'm pretty
okay,
sure.
yeah.
But I think they work with schools too.
Is it
My sister's husband's brother is the COO. Is random that chain is, but good guy.
Nice.
Yeah, so very familiar with that side. Should connect you guys. Might be something there.
Yeah.
Um,
Connections.
yeah. Last question. For someone else that wants to pursue their dream or go after something like you, without any experience in online retail and manufacturing, et cetera, just went for this. What's something you either did hear or wish you heard that would have like helped you along the way that you would give the advice to someone else that wants to pursue their dream?
Well, I don't know if I can tell you anything I wished or I did hear, but I typically, I hear people saying, "Oh, I want to start this business or this service, this product." And I feel it's so important to find something that people need. Find a solution to a problem. Um, it's really cute to have a cute baby bib, but do you actually need it? Are people going to call you at 3 o'clock in the morning begging you to send one? No.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be as passionate about something that is cute and people might want as something that people need. I actually felt like I helped people by providing them with some snot free, scream free nights. Everybody knows what that's like, and
Uh-huh.
it really I believed so much in the product that I was very confident as a seller of it. I was very confident and kind of a bully. Like, you need to carry these in your stores. Trust me, you're gonna sell them. I guarantee it. You're gonna love it. And they were like, okay, yeah, we'll give it a shot.
Passion's important. I love that.
Yeah.
Well,
And I'd
guys,
say, when you have there were a few times where the going was rough. I was like, this is too many problems. It's becoming too overwhelming. I'm not a businesswoman from the start, and I had to learn a lot. And there were times where I was like, okay, well, I sold X amount, we made X amount of money, but I could give up now. But I had people working for me, a lot of people that relied on me, and you just have to keep going. And when you work hard, you just try a little harder, work even harder, and good things come when you try your very best.
agreed. Well, Kaisa, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for coming on Hawk Talk.
You, Herrick. It was a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much.
You too.